So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, poets and pilgrims, saints and sinners, everyone,
Did you say
welcome
boys
all.
and girls because of the PGP ones and twos over there?
No, so there are families joining with the kids as
Okay.
well. So it's not just the alumni. The next generation is also on the chat. So and yeah, so welcome everyone to the latest edition of IIMChat, what I call a banking show because people of interest share their thoughts with people of principle. So I spent 5 minutes writing their jokes. So please laugh out of sheer pity, if nothing else. So our guests for today need no introduction, hence actually none will be given. So on behalf of all the IIM alumni in Singapore, let me and Anand welcome the Lord of the Lords, who has the gift of the GABA, Harsha and Anita Bhogle, to today's show. So welcome Harsha and Anita to IIMChat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So just as trivia, you're continuing an illustrious sequence of guests on the show, which has included ex-RBI governors, Fortune 500 CEOs, and 35-year-old billionaires. So no pressure there. So before we start the formal session, just some instructions for the house, especially for the audience. Our talk today is in two halves. The first half is largely Harsha and Anita talking about themselves and their experiences. And the second half, which will be moderated by my co-host Anand, will be driven largely by audience questions. So please do type in your questions in the Q&A window of the Zoom session, so Anand can see them and can pose them during his half. And the winner of the Harsha Dozen contest will also be announced by Anand by the end of the chat. All right. So then let me start the session. So Harsha, in the late 90s, every Indian male had basically two dreams. One was to have a job like Harsha Bhogle, and the second was to marry Madhuri Dixit. Now, Dr. Nene kind of messed up one of the dreams for us, but you lit a dream and turned into a great story. So my first question actually would be for you, Harsha and Anita. People know about the Bhogle story and your rise, let's say from 1993 onwards, but very little is known, or very few are aware about your story from your IIM Ahmedabad days till, let's say, the early 90s. So can you share with us, some of your stories of those times from those days?
Since you mentioned Madhuri Dixit, I must tell you something.
Sure.
When Anita saw me and a friend of mine together, generally looking downcast as if, what the hell has she done? She just asked, she's got this terrible way of coming directly to the point and asking straight questions. She said, why were you in contention?
All right.
I have a straight answer for the want to be Harsha Bhogle as well. And I say, go home and ask your wife.
All right. Okay.
I think we had different lives on campus. I was struggling. I think she was happier off. She understood quant better than I did. So you know what happens with MSN1 and FORM and all the quant subjects early on. So I was struggling, but I think by the time we finished 2 years, it left largely very, very happy memories.
And let's say your time from that point onwards still.
So you ask, oh, sorry, I thought you said 83 to 85. You want 85 to 93.
Yeah, correct. Exactly.
85 to 93 was actually great fun because we got married in 85, right? So I'm the 24 when we got married, and before all of you fall off your chairs. We're 24, so effectively we grew into our lives together. We grew into our professions together. Both of us were in advertising. We were in different agencies. She was in account planning. I was in client servicing.
I earned more than him. And between the two of us, we didn't earn even 5,000 rupees. That would be of interest to especially the young folks.
But you were staying in South Bombay. Can't be that bad.
Now, that is the key to all you guys. I didn't know this, but here's a tip for all of you. If you want to live in South Bombay, marry a girl who comes with a house.
All right.
We had a low rent house, and I think that saved us a lot of time and energy. And that was really what set it up for us.
Yeah, so we were working for you worked till you did the first break in 88. Our first young man arrived in 88. Second in 93.
So by the time ESPN and Star came, we already had 2 children, and that's when Harsha started traveling.
So 93 was when TWI first came in, ESPN announced 94, actually came in 95. And then the proper professional broadcasting career began. Before that, it was just a freelancer trying to do all kinds of things. I mean, among the things we did was, I went to the telecom office to get a telex connection because fax had not yet arrived.
Right.
I mean, fax had just about arrived. Fax arrived in sort of mid 92, about mid 92 fax arrived, or a little around that. We brought out an album of cheer songs. Can you imagine cricket cheer songs?
Yeah, and wonderful singers. We had
Udit Narayan, Jolly Mukherjee.
Nandu Bende, who used to be quite an icon. In
yeah.
Yeah, so Vinod Rathod.
Yes.
Yeah, good singer, man. We went and put together this album.
And Ehsan Nurani, more or less, to do the music.
And can you believe how the times were? The entire Indian cricket team came for the launch of that. For the launch of that album.
All right, I didn't know this.
32, I asked Azhar, we came from the same town. I said, will you come? I asked Ajit Wadekar, will you come? And he said, yes, okay. Next thing I know is Kapil Dev is there, everybody is there, and we're just looking at each other, this looks good. And the guy from HMB was around, he must have thought like I put strings in the background which no one knows about.
So the moral of the story is just ask and you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, there you go. Her story from 85, I mean, she got advertising when she had a far better paying job in shipping corporation.
They were after me for several years, but no, advertising was fun and, surrounded by young people. In those days, we had wonderful people in advertising, a lot of IIM guys, and it was a great time. We really enjoyed ourselves. So I must say that a lot of my working has been part-time in advertising and been self-employed for a very long time because, like I said, the kids came early and then the man, of course, started traveling.
So, no, interesting to say that because my next question, Harsha, then would be for you because, I guess you grew up in the days of Suresh Saraiya, Dicky Ratnagar, great commentators, but I think for most of them, it was not really a full-time career. Like Suresh Saraiya, I think he was in Central Bank, Dicky Ratnagar was a full-time sports journalist. So with this background, and, there was little to suggest, let's say, lucrative or even a worthwhile full-time cricket commenting as a career. Now with the IIMA degree in hand, what made you, give up advertising career, especially having two kids and, take on this commenting or look upon it as a career? I mean, there must be more than passion, or was it just that?
She was working, she had a salary, was doing okay, our rent was low, our needs were very low. So we could get by on what we had. I knew I could get a job back in advertising. I left Radio Fusion on very, very happy terms. I'm still, I only worked there 2 years, I'm still on their group, on their WhatsApp group. So left in very happy circumstances. I knew I'd be able to go back if it came to that. But we also wanted to do lots of different things. And as it turned out, the media side of it kept on growing. I worked somewhere else for 2 years. I worked with a company called Professional Management Group for 2 years.
So it wasn't that sudden or dramatic.
No.
Even at the institute, he had covered a test and an ODI?
I'd done 2 ODIs and a test match while I was studying at IIM Alumni.
Oh, okay.
So, but that was purely on till 93, there was no career. Before that, you had to freelance. So I would write for different publications, try and get a sponsorship logo put on. That is where the money would come from. So you go and spend your money on a tour, and income minus expenditure was what you made. So bought your own ticket, paid your way through everywhere, and hope that what the sponsorship gave you. Luckily, after my first tour to Australia, BBC was paying me a little bit, and that pounds into that became quite substantial. So all that added together, and that is out.
And I think what helped was that he worked across mediums even then. So a bit of radio, a bit of writing, a bit of television, all those kinds of things.
No, but given your both your family background, Anita, your family background also was, most IIM alumni in the typical classical mold. Your dad was in government service. You had an undergrad degree already from a good institution, IIT Mumbai. And in the, in the India of the mid 80s, when no one really saw all this coming away, what were your thoughts, as a friend, as a spouse, when Harsha really made this call to pursue the passion? I'm assuming success came late, but the call must have been made much earlier that I want to go this way. So what was, your reactions?
Yeah, so when people take risks, and we really didn't see it as much of a risk really, but people weigh the upside and the downside. Like I said, we weren't earning too much money. In those days, nobody earned that kind of money, and even aspirations were low in a way. Lifestyles were simple. I mean, still simple even today, but it didn't seem like such a big risk. We had a home, we had one income coming, and it wasn't as if he was putting in a lot of money to kind of start something. Whatever money he made, and he always saved. Managed to
honestly,
save on the tour.
a lot of people don't like it when I say never thought that much, never thought about the risk, never wondered if I'm changing profession, never thought that much, to be honest. And sometimes in life, when you don't think too much, you don't have options, you just take what you get. And in this case, what was coming was pretty good. So it went along. We were getting to known in advertising, so we knew sponsors, we knew friends. So slowly things were starting to fall in place. She was in advertising, I'd finished advertising, but she was still there. So
even before ESPN Star came in, he did a full tour of England, and that was sponsored by Midday. So there was money that was committed even before he left.
So Midday covered the cost. Midday covered the cost of that first one. And I'll tell you something. I mean, the Anita joined me at the end of the tour, and we went on a little Eurail trip holiday around Europe. As anyone who's done that on low budgets would realize, you often take the longest route because you want the night to be in the train to save a hotel room charge. So we've all done that. And her ticket cost 15,004 rupees. We still remember the cost. And she said, I've got the money, I'll buy the ticket. And it was a big thing for us. She came back one day home, very excited, because she had gone to the bank branch just opposite the JWT office near in Fort. And the bank balance showed 10,000 rupees. And he said, wow.
So good. So rich.
Yeah.
Now we've lost all those small pleasures.
Small pleasures were
small pleasure, absolutely
beautiful, yeah.
But Harsha, I remember while doing the research, I think there was a period of from 83 to 91 where you just did 3 or 4 tests. So there's quite a prolonged period where
85 to 91.
Yeah, 85 to 91, where I think it was just 3 or 4 tests. I think that's what you commented on, and I think quite a few of them were also as a freelancer. So every entrepreneur, artist, or maybe even sportsman has this moments of self-doubt, anxiety, or maybe even panic. Am I doing right? Am I going the right direction? So, and you, in a way, were unique because we had no equivalent peers to really show you the way. You're pretty much first one of your mold. So, what was your, modus operandi? When I'm assuming you must have had your inevitable panic moments or self-doubt moments in those early days when there was no money, no recognition, and very little glamour.
The first tour happened in 1990. That was entirely paid for. Then 91, I went to Australia, and I wasn't getting paid by Australian radio because I was the overseas broadcaster. But I was doing 100 other things. I don't want to go into all that I was doing, but I had very, very long days. But I was actually net positive before I left. So it wasn't that there was a shortage of money. And even when there was not, I would syndicate columns for somebody. I had my own column running in Midday that would pay a little bit. So Anita's salary was coming in. We were never short. We never had a lot, but we were never short. The self-doubt actually started coming later. I think I've got more self-doubt now than I had then.
Okay. Much more at stake, I guess.
No, success, I think, brings with it a lot of heartburn.
Mm-hmm. So there's different kinds of pressure, some internal, some imposed. So you get that. Maybe like Pujara's thinking now, maybe I get that feeling sometime now, so from time to time.
You basically just toughen it through.
Yeah, but at all times, if any of you believe in palmistry, I don't. But if any of you do, when I was leaving engineering college in 83, all of us classmates, uncertain of where we are going, went to a palmist. She, of course, the first thing she did, look at my hand, she closed it and said, non-believers are not allowed here. Which sort of got me to think, oh God. She said, you will always have 2 careers running parallel. Throughout your life, you'll be doing 2 things. And that's exactly as it happened. The biggest cushion that we had came in about 2001, when we started the Winning Way together. And at no point did we think we'll do 600 corporate events.
We thought 25 would be a good number.
But actually, that brings me exactly to my next question on Winning Way. Anita, this question is to you. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the idea to brand and structure Harsha's and your experience into a kind of a management coaching project was your idea. And I think this too was a first. I don't know, maybe since then there are other similar initiatives, but to combine sports and management, and turn it into this initiative. And you, I think, referred to one of your interviews to Mukul Davis, the now Colgate Formula Asia head, I think, who also is an IIMA alumnus, as one of the people who advised you. So is this opportunity something you saw emerge gradually as Harsha's career took off, or was this something that was close to your heart anyway?
No, so a couple of things happened at that time. I was at FCB Ulka and I was heading a department. Harsha was obviously traveling like crazy. The kids weren't grown up yet. And we had 7 offices. And, I would always avoid travel. I missed a lot of training programs because of that. Yeah. Because we had no family in Mumbai that I could leave the kids. So the agency was very sweet to me, but I myself started feeling, how long am I going to do this? Why don't I, think of something else to do where I don't feel embarrassed about not turning down things. So that is one thing. Then in 93, 94, like I said, sports started becoming big. And then there were a lot of brands, a lot of companies that started investing in sport in different ways. So brand ambassadors, I don't think had started, but people were doing, small things, sponsoring things or creating products around the sport, promoting their brands, using some ideas from sport. So that was the second thing.
So we actually thought we would
and around the time,
consult on brands.
Yeah, we thought we would do that as the main activity. And somewhere around the time, we heard of some sportsmen in the US, doing something like that, because the motivational speaking, because that's where we are bracketed now, the winning way gets bracketed. Somebody had started doing that and we'd heard about it. But basically, people just came and told their story. Like subsequently, sports people started talking about, cricketers started talking about 1983, how we won. So that was one story. What we did was we kind of, customized it and we brought in the management angle. And so learning from sport was something we kind of, said, this sounds interesting. And then we bounced it off Mukul Davis. Mukul was a batch senior to us and he was the cricket captain at IIMA before Harsha, a very dear friend. And we asked him, in those days he was at HUL and HLL it was.
Right.
Yeah. So he said, it's a very good idea. And so we did a very simple 20-minute presentation. One was about how the West Indies had a fall. So they were right on top and then, there was a fall, and how Australia went from being absolutely rock bottom and how they climbed their way up. So these were just 2 little case studies and 20 minutes was all that it took. But from then on, we kind of built up a lot more.
So the first couple we did for levers. After the first one, they called us for another. And then in the HR world, word started to spread. And more people started asking us. The more we started doing that, the more our product became better and better. We started including a lot of other things in it. But till today, we've never written one letter to anybody saying, this is what we do. Would you be interested in having a session? Not even one. Everything's gone entirely by word of mouth.
And
I think you should write one letter to the palmist who really predicted the 2 careers in parallel. But maybe she knows it already. So
maybe she knows it already. Who knows? Who knows? But what worked was that there was one of us who understood sport reasonably well, and there was the other one who was outstanding at organized thought. So our presentation started getting really well structured because Anita was very rigorous with putting together the presentations as behaves a proper quant person. Whether we are an interesting family in that I'm the engineer, she's the quant person.
Okay.
And for a long time, she refused to believe. Yeah. She refused to believe I'd done engineering.
A lot of people do.
Yeah. So you proved it's possible to be an engineer without knowing maths.
So they had all these people had one category during our class, which we came to know afterwards, of the engineer type. All I am the engineer type, the quant engineer type, and this engineer non-engineer.
All right. no prizes for guessing
where I
classified
fell.
yourself. Yeah.
Actually, I have to remind people, I did 5 years of engineering. I was the last of the 5-year batch. So I did a little bit of mathematics, but I did proper engineering. I passed exams and all. Anyway. So because the program started getting structured that way, and cricket is an idiom that is very easily understood by everybody. So if you talk about leadership traits among cricketers, among cricket captains, and what happens on a cricket field, it's very easily understood. The parallel was very easily understood. So Anita started putting together very, very well structured presentations. So I would talk the cricket side, she would talk the management side. We brought our skills together, and nobody in India had two people presenting together. Speakers who came were always one person coming and speaking and going. And here were two of us literally playing off each other. I mean, it got to a point where we could say, well, it wasn't the same presentation everywhere, but we literally knew when one paused, the other started. So it became a very interesting presentation style.
So that in itself was something people found very interesting. They would say, do you rehearse or do you write the script, and how do you manage to do that? But I think knowing each other so well helped.
It's like a good partnership. You don't need to give the call to run. The other partner knows when to run and when not to run. It's like a bit like that. So Anita, the next question is for you, and Harsha, only she has to answer. So this is a question on behalf of all Indian husbands. How exactly all Indian husbands on their behalf? So how exactly, and we are recording this because I also need to know it. How exactly do you live with cricket as the third wheel in the relationship?
Well,
can you hear? Can you hear?
When we were at the institute, there was this guy who was in a batch junior to us, Chandra. Suddenly we lost him in an air crash pretty early after he.
Yeah, the Bangalore crash. The
Indian life. Yeah.
Told me that I'm telling you, you're never going to be number one. So number two is not too bad, really. The other advantage was when the boys grew up, they stopped asking me questions like, how many wickets has Wasim Akram scored, and all these little cards, cricket cards, and the quiz questions, and things like that. After a while, they stopped asking me, so it is okay. And so I'm in a minority. I kind of joined them. I spent a lot of time, and I still do, reading about sport, especially cricket. So I probably can't tell LBW 100%, but I generally get I know what is happening.
The truth is, Chandra was wrong. She was never number two.
But I was warned.
Yeah, but her story is just as interesting in that here's a hardcore quant math stats person. Because the children are young, she merged out into qualitative research. She ran her own qualitative research agency, which went from designing the research problem and the questions, to doing the group discussions herself, to submitting the project, the report herself. So unlearning and getting into qualitative research, then unlearning and getting into sport, and running a program that's been running now 20 years. That's done 600 episodes in between cricket tours everywhere, and repeat people coming back. So the pressure actually is, when people call you back, you can't go and say the same thing, right?
Right.
Initially, when people called us back, I would say the first time around it could be novelty, because you're somebody who everybody loves, and cricket is something that everybody loves. This is something new, and so there's this novelty thing. When they call you back, that is really when we get the feeling that we've kind of done something, or maybe it resonated with the audience. So that is how
it worked very well. We wrote a book together. She wrote 70% of it. And as strict as ever. I'll tell you, one of the secrets to working together is you very clearly decide who runs the show. Right. I still remember chapter 4. I wrote it. I was so proud of writing chapter 4. And I went and gave it to her and said, right, chapter 4 is ready, of this book we wrote called The Winning Way. And she just came back and said, no, I think you have to rewrite it.
He's not quite a Sehwag, but I'm definitely a Dravid.
So Harsha, you were rotating the strike and she was scoring the big hits.
No, she said she's a Dravid. She thought I was a Sehwag.
I'm the Sehwag, but he is like closer to that. So he would come and write something with great flair one day, and then 2 months he wouldn't write anything at all. I wasn't like that at all. So we're like completely different people, and but anyway, it worked.
A spade was nothing other than a spade, I can assure you. But it works. One person has to be like that. Otherwise, you cannot run things together. So it benefited me enormously that we were working together. And it allowed me, for my career, it allowed me a hedge from the eccentricities, the whims of people who ran cricket in the country. So if anything did happen, there was always, well, not people who ran cricket, but the uncertainties of television. And there was always something else to go back to. I mean, 2016, the year I didn't do television, we did 60 events together. So
that's more than one a week.
And for me, it allowed me to differentiate myself from being just a cricket commentator, in that you're going out speaking to companies. Companies are inviting you to speak. You're talking to CEOs and company heads and whatever. So it just gave me a different identity. So I was every inch as proud of what we did in the winning way as of hosting a World Cup final. Every inch is proud.
So Harsha, the next question is for you. This is, I think, maybe far more relevant in the times you're living in. A wise man had once said that in India, only 11 Indians do not understand how to play cricket. And BCCI selects exactly those to play. Otherwise, every Indian knows everything about cricket. Field settings, winning the toss, shot selection, everything is there. Now, you have this on one side, and on the other side, you have a hypersensitive environment where almost anything and everything that a public figure says, if it's not hurting someone's sentiments, it's anti-poor or anti-national or something like that. Now, as a commentator, when it's really your job to speak your views and be honest to, your own opinions, how do you make this omelette without breaking the egg?
Life was a lot easier before social media. Once social media came in, it gave everybody a voice, and their voice started reaching people. And so if you had somebody who was abusing you or using your handle to abuse a player, they started seeing it. Everyone became a little more touchy, a little more sensitive after social media came. Before social media, there was never an issue, because if somebody hated me, I never got to know.
No, but it's even a chance comment, and there's so many instances like Kerry Keefe, Mayank Agarwal, Manjrekar, Jadeja, Dean Jones, Hashim Amla, where a casual comment went, suddenly just ballooned up. And how do you just comment for 8 hours a day and still be careful, mindful of what you're speaking is not come back to bite you.
You've got to be careful. In my case, luckily, my role was better defined. I was never an expert. But the other thing I was lucky with was that the growth of my career coincided with growth of very nice people in Indian cricket. And not a single player, not one player once told me, I don't like what you're saying. Not once. The relationships that were built in those times exist today with the Tendulkars, the Dravids, the Gangulis, the Kumbles, Lakshman. Not one of them once came to you and said, I didn't like what you said. So it was a different time where there was mutual trust. There were things that I knew that they knew I would not say. There was almost a friendship that had started to develop. And there was a far greater understanding that the two careers are different. It changed after social media. But so luckily, while my name was being made, while I was getting opportunities, it was in a very, very different environment, the pre-social media environment.
So one of your peers whom I had contacted to ask him his views, he actually said, Harsha has the rare ability to be honest without being harsh. So as the only non-cricketer sharing the box with, the legends of the game, like Gavaskar, Vaughan, Holding, how difficult it is to speak your mind at the same time, making sure that what you say, will not be, let's say, trashed or will not be opposed or will not be completely disregarded by the presence of the powerful. Let's put it that way.
Banter was okay. I never actually spoke my mind too strongly because that was not my role. I was a program host and I was the lead commentator. I was not the expert. So banter was okay. I benefited from the fact that I got along really well with someone like Boycott. And it was a very good team in the 2002 to 2005-06 phase. It was an outstanding team that we worked with. So I didn't have that trouble. I was never speaking my mind out openly. I was never saying, drop Dravid tomorrow, drop Lakshman tomorrow. That was not my role in any case. So the banter was okay. And so it wasn't really my role to come hard at people. And I had a different identity when I was writing under my own byline in the newspapers, and I had a very different identity when I was on television. So my role was very different, and I was very aware of it.
Anita, if I were to ask you to what sporting duo would you compare your own, winning way collaboration? Which analogy comes closest?
I don't know, any good partnership, I guess.
Sehwag, Gambhir, Tendulkar, Ganguly. It doesn't have to be cricket, but I mean that's the most obvious.
Different people, and I remember, there's a clip of Shane Warne that we use where he talks about Steve Waugh and him being very different people as captain and vice captain, not so much as partners or batting together. But he talked about how they had a good partnership as captain and vice captain because they were like completely different. So Steve O was very boring and very methodical, and he went about doing.
And was the captain.
Yeah.
And was the captain. You know where this conversation is going.
Exactly.
So Shane Warne had a lot of flair, and so he just he liked to do things his own way and things like that. I think something like that maybe, because I was always
Steve or Shane Warne. I mean, if I were to pick up two names, okay, I wouldn't have seen that coming. But all right, that's an interesting comparison.
One of the questions I keep getting asked most often by guys is how can you live with the same person and work with the same person all the time? I would never be able to do that. How can you work together and live together and go out together and see movies together? And nothing better in life has happened to me than working together.
Yeah.
Because when you have a lot of mutual trust, respect for each other and each other's knowledge and each other's ability, then working together is a dream. Why would you want to work with somebody else when you can work with someone you trust with your life? So why would you want to work with somebody else?
Though I must say, and I must tell all the women who are listening and who couples who are probably thinking about working together, that we still have a situation where people say to the wife that, oh, you're working with your husband in the sense you're supporting the husband or you're helping the husband or something like that. We still have that mindset, and that is very difficult to kind of shake off. You really have to do a lot of things to kind of establish yourself and hold your own.
Yeah, it's been the one disappointing thing in working together is that even in companies, occasionally, even with women, the inherent assumption that when husband and wife work together, it's not the wife running the business, but the wife supporting the husband. And I hope nobody has to go through that, because it was the most frustrating thing of working together. I mean, it was very clear on the one hand that we are presenting together, that one person is running the business, but even today, the assumption is that the wife is helping the husband.
Of course, our situation is also unusual because he's on television and he covers cricket and he's the man, so everything is in his favor. But still, I think that mindset needs to go.
Right. So, Harsha, Anita, one last question before I pass it to Anand, and an honest question to which we hope for an honest answer. If today some 25-year-old, comes out there to you and says he wants to pursue his or her career in commenting, what would you tell him?
Don't.
Okay.
I don't know how much time you had. No.
Where are the openings?
There are no openings for non-cricketer commentators today, because I'm a relic. I'm just around. I still get my gigs, but today for a young kid to get a break in commentary, absolutely no chance. And it has also coincided with a very wonderful bunch of very professional former player commentators who work very hard, understand that they are in a new profession. So they're playing cricket with one qualification and they're not that good, still learning the ropes in broadcasting. They've also become very good broadcasters because they realize that is their career. So for a youngster to break in now is very, very hard, but you can be an anchor. You can run your own blogs. There's so much. Digital is just booming, expanding in the world ahead. Who knows, you might, I'll give you just one example on CricBuzz. When we do our CricBuzz lives around IPL or do whatever, I just said, how does it work when it's just three of us? So when Gaurav Kapoor, Joy Bhattacharya and me, we sometimes get the highest rating. Neither of us has played a game. Today, audiences are starting to say, hey, these guys are interesting. So if you're a 25-year-old kid who's interesting, but who's not in it to be seen, who's willing to work his or her backside off, but is not just there to be seen, but to make a career like a career of an lubricant salesman, you can. There is no difference between the two careers.
Right. So thanks, Harsha and Anita. I think that kind of brings our first half of the session to a close. I'll pass it to Anand, who is taking the audience with questions, and who will take you to the end of the session. So Anand, over to you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Rahul. Harsha and Anita, I think your screen froze for a bit. Not able to see you.
Hang on, it's still frozen. Just a minute.
Yeah, you're back. Great. Fantastic. We'll shift a little bit to, there are about a couple of questions that have come up in the Q&A, and I've been eager to ask a few as well. And then in the end, we'll go to the your All India Greatest Test team and then see how it fares. Starting off with the audience questions, there are a couple on cricket, and we'll start with that, and maybe there are other questions to move into. The first is, there's a question around, and it kind of touches on the winning way, on is winning everything. There's a whole chapter in your book on winning with grace, and how do you do it without cheating and so on. And you do refer to match fixing. There is a question that has come up from the audience to say that you've probably seen through at least a couple of match fixing eras. There was the Hansi Cronje and the period at that point of time, through which actually Indian cricket came out pretty well with the, as you said, the nice men came into cricket. And then there's the IPL related stuff that's happened more recently. Any thoughts on that, on what you've seen, not the match fixing issue itself, but the impact it had on the game, on the followers and fans like ourselves, and any learnings from that? Or
there was some. What I will tell you is there have been fewer games fixed at the international level than over 20 years than in one day on the stock market.
Okay.
But because the stock market doesn't represent India, people don't seem to be worried by it. But the amount of fixing that's rampant in stock markets, we don't even get a very tiny fraction of that at the international level. And now, because there are safeguards in, there will always be bad eggs. There are bad eggs everywhere. There will always be bad eggs. And the arrival of franchise cricket is, you need to be very careful with franchise cricket because the team ownership is different. So franchise cricket is something you've got to be very careful about. But if you start to think games are fixed, you look at the game very different. So there are games that you look and say, hang on, what's happening here? Especially when it comes to T20. But the thing with T20 is outlandish things happen in T20 anyway. Brain fades happen in T20 cricket anyway. But yeah, there were a couple of phases. Definitely one in 99-2000 when the first sort of situation happened. And I think there's a lot that happened around them that remained unsafe. It's interesting that the only two countries that took action were India and Pakistan. All the others hoped it didn't happen. And were very happy pretending that nothing happened. So I think the test match of 2001 was absolutely critical from many angles. The Calcutta test of 2001, that great series, Australia-India in 2001, that made a huge difference in bringing the faithful back. We were starting to lose the faithful. It made a huge difference in bringing them back. And the fact that there were people like Dravid, Kumble, Ganguly, Tendulkar that people could trust, that made a huge difference. So we got over that phase. I actually think we got over that phase a little too quickly.
Okay.
But we got over that phase. What happened in the IPL was never really proven. I mean, what happened with, say, CSK, that was team owners betting on their own teams. Now, if a team owner bets that their team will win, there's no issue. But if a team owner bets that the team's going to lose, then there's a problem. And one of the reasons in the IPL, the team owners are so important is that the team owners are privy to information that can affect the betting market.
Yeah.
So you need to have team owners who are above board, and the moment team owners are not above board level.
Having said that, I think the stakes are high, the temptations are high, and increasingly you have youngsters coming from not such privileged backgrounds, with not much exposure or education, and these things need to be they need to be made aware and taught all these things, and that's true even in corporate life. I think there are a lot of things that youngsters with functional skills need to be taught about other aspects of life.
And I will say this: the Indian national team, when it plays today, will not fix it. Will definitely not fix a game, simply because what they have to lose is now far more, is far too deep.
Yeah.
So with the arrival of the IPL, the big players are earning so much that they wouldn't want to take a chance. If any fixing happens, by the way, fixing doesn't happen for the result. Fixing happens for small phases of play. Nobody's interested in the result. It happens in small periods of play. It could happen with marginal players who are not sure of their careers.
Yeah. Great, and hope that's true going forward for the game as well. I think you mentioned the 2001 Test match, which I think pretty much everyone in this audience remembers where they were on that fateful day when Dravid and Lakshman batted out the whole day. I at least remember where I was, in an Accenture office in Mumbai, but not working the whole day, just logged on to Cricinfo. In your life, Harsha, what would be, and you made a comment earlier that about some key moments, what would be the top 3 commentating moments where you are actually on the ground and commenting, which you can say you'll never forget? And a related question is, through the 600 odd conferences that you've held as the winning way, Anita and Harsha, what would be your top 3 kind of any memorable events or things which actually you saw the corporate mobilized and kind of remain in memory?
You have any 3?
I remember the bottom 3. Sometimes the audience is just not right, so we remember but they've been
2 that I can remember.
wonderful.
I think out of 600, there's 2 that I can remember, 2 or 3, where we were the wrong choice of speaker, because the atmosphere is different. But otherwise, because I think we gave every single talk of ours 100%. So there's a lot of satisfaction at the end.
Yeah. But we also kind of innovated and asked people all kinds of things. And I remember a particular one where, we talked about cheating and ethics, right? And we asked them to put in chits. I think it was a private equity investment kind of a firm. And we said that, when you're not going to get caught, are you going to cheat? Something like that. And then, chits were put in, and over 50% of people said they would. And
I think it emerged out of whether you would dive to claim a penalty.
So sometimes impromptu we would kind of do things and get people to react. And I remember some very powerful discussions we've had. There was a pharma company once.
Yes.
Where we had a case of a star performer who was
Selfish and not a team player.
And not a team player. And I remember there was an Englishman over there who kind of, had a completely different point of view from the Indians. And it's some interesting discussions.
Very, very interesting. Yeah. Very, very, very interesting, because we are able to relate real life situations with corporate situations because of the people we knew and the way we read. So, yeah. So
very, very interesting shifts in the audience as well. When we started, I think we were, the audience was mainly people our age, but now they're younger than our children. And this generation is quite different. So the kind of questions that they ask, and their responses are very interesting and very different from earlier.
Look, for me, it's difficult to pull out 3 that you remember, because you obviously remember big situations. I remember the ones I would have liked to be on air that I wasn't on air, but let that be over a career. These things happen. I think yesterday, day before, a couple of days ago was 23rd of June, when India won the Champions Trophy 2013. one of those rare occasions, because I'm not hosting, I get to do the final over and call India winning an ICC trophy. So that would be one. I thought being on air impromptu when Pakistan beat India in Chennai and went on a victory lap. Imagine going on a victory lap in India. Yeah, that was in 1999, and I had to just make it up as I went along. And the one that most people tend to remember was the Tendulkar retirement. And in each of those cases, what helped was, especially the Tendulkar retirement, what helped was I had an idea what was going on in his mind. So,
Great.
The more I think, I might come up with some more, the more I think. There were some funny ones, like Rahul Dravid announcing his retirement from T20 internationals before he made his debut. I think he's the only person who announced his retirement before his debut, and then hit 3 sixes one after the other. And I was there, and I could not stop laughing. Rahul Dravid hitting 3 sixes in a row. So
the Australian Prime Minister,
or doing commentary with an Australian Prime Minister.
Okay.
On Australian radio, and I don't know how to talk to him, but the Australian Prime Minister was late. And because he was late, the Aussie commentator was supposed to be with him. He got up and went away and said, "Too bad he's late." Can you imagine telling the Prime Minister, "Too bad he's late"? So now I'm next, so I have to sit and do commentary with him, right? And he was a cricket tragic, complete cricket tragic. So I said, "I don't know about protocol. Since you're such a tragic, why don't you come to the Eden Gardens when Australia play India later this year?" I said, "I'm sure you'd love it." And he said, "I might be otherwise occupied at the time." And the next day, as Melbourne Age had an article saying, speaking to the Indian commentator, he dropped his first hint that there might be early elections. So then, you get things. The funniest ever commentary I've been part of is when I eat a chili on air. So if you just YouTube Bhogle O'Keefe Naga chili, it's a 9-minute commentary clip, but we haven't missed a ball.
Excellent. Again, there are questions that have come up now. There's a question around you've had business training and you're kind of bringing sport into business. How business savvy are cricketers or sports person, and have you kind of looked at doing it the other way around?
Some are more savvy than the others. Some carry their own personality, and because all their lives they've had people coming to them, they don't make great businessmen, because in business you have to go to the client or the consumer. They've never had to go to people. People have always come to them. They don't make great business people. Probably the best cricket business person that I know is Kapil Dev.
Okay.
And he has business interests ranging from exporting rice and jute to setting up power plants to being in real estate. He's a proper businessman. So he did a very good job. But taking business truths to cricketers in India, no, because they know it all. They know it all. We've done it once though. When John Wright was coach of the Indian team, he asked if he'd come and speak to the cricket team about what it meant to play for India, and just to talk about the fans and what it meant to represent India and the pride that they evoked among people. So, and also that was a different era. There was Ganguly, there was Tendulkar, there was John Wright. It was a different era. So yeah, I can tell you how many were listening.
Interesting. And now anyway, they have this whole set of managers who are managing their affairs and so on and so forth. Anita, moving on to a couple of questions. One is, and this is a question I wanted to ask, is you've been an entrepreneur, you've been in advertising, you've been an entrepreneur twice over or thrice over in some sense. And doing all this as a woman manager, I mean, seeing through the last 3 decades, right from the mid-80s till today, how have you seen the opportunities for women in management, in leadership roles, in corporates evolve over this time? And I know there's still a long way to go. But again, a lot of the audience today are also people on this journey. How have you seen that evolve, and where do you see that going forward?
I'm actually working on a book on women professionals. Like you said, a lot has changed, uh, partly with the stick, as in policies, and partly, of course, that the women themselves have changed. They are far more ambitious now. Parents are also far more ambitious compared to, our generation where they were just supportive. So हो गया तो भी ठीक है, नहीं हुआ तो भी it's okay, that kind of a thing. They're far more ambitious. But somewhere along the line, I think women need a lot more support, especially when it comes to kind of leadership. It takes a lot to be a leader. And so I think somewhere that is not really happening. But it will, because I think women are persisting. The younger generation is, I think, more sorted, less inhibited, less inhibited, far more confident. And I think it will happen. A lot more opportunities, but I am not sure the way policies are going. I think they still tend to backfire. How these quotas work, or even for board members, for example. When they say at least one board member, it becomes only one, and then that person is called a diversity candidate. That's not fair to women who have kind of come up through merit. So things like that need to be, rather than just paying lip service or having knee-jerk reactions to issues that women have. Things need to be thought through far more. Even maternity leave, for example, 6 months, people are saying, oh, it's like too much. Fear of missing out is there in men, but is there in women as well. So yeah, but I'm very optimistic that things will be better for the younger generation.
I mean, I've enjoyed some of the stories she's told me about talking to women professionals, and I just think they're stronger. They're stronger than us.
Yeah, and I guess they have to be more resilient. And
I mean, we've seen that in the
thing is that when you are in a world where the rules are not really made for you, and people are just trying to fit you in, you need to relook at everything and make it more gender neutral. You can't just say, yeah, we have these rules, now how do we do these minor tweaks to kind of fit in these women? That doesn't work.
And were there moments in this journey when you actually thought, this isn't working, there are kind of too many things I'm pushing against, it's better to just go back to advertising and in a corporate kind of role, kind of thing?
Did I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went back before the winning way, but after that, it has been great for us. So I never really went back. Then I started the other video learning library called Dispundits, which I just sold off end of last year. They say that you must do something new every 10 years. That just happened to me.
Yeah.
So things happened. Yeah, I mean, partly came out of constraints, but managed to do something interesting and have fun on the way.
Every 10 years, I'm still talking about cover drives. I haven't done anything new in 10 years. Man.
Yeah, I mean,
Anand, is that the same book?
Which one? Sorry.
Steve Wall, right over your left shoulder, is that?
Yes, it is Steve Wall's autobiography. Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I get distracted. My eyes are always wandering around, so I saw that. Yeah.
Okay. Great. So there's a very interesting question that has come up. Is and if it's too personal, please feel free not to answer. What made you decide to marry each other, and who proposed? Each of you has to answer the question.
I tell you what I looked at. Like I told you, I was a nerd, I was an introvert, and he seemed to be a fun guy. I thought, oh, this man can make me laugh. And then he didn't have any vices. And I thought that was nice. Like you said, my father was in the police. So a big consideration for people like that was, at least for him, was that, I have an older sister, so I know what the conversation was around finding a son-in-law, and no corrupt people. Safe, yeah. His parents were teachers, professors, so that was safe. No corruption there. So I knew that he would be probably right for me, and my parents would also approve.
And then many years later, she told me, I never thought I married a workaholic.
Yeah,
Oh,
I thought he
okay.
would be this impulsive, fun guy. Chalo, let's go and have lunch in Lonavala and drive off from Mumbai. No, he's not.
I turned out to be a little more boring than she thought, I suspect. I don't know. I was very young. I was 24. I'd not thought a lot about it. And I just said, wow, man, this girl wants to marry me. Don't say no. Don't change your mind.
No, some friends got us together.
Yeah. We had classmates together who said it might be right. And I said, yeah, of course. It might be right. What do you mean? Yeah.
Great.
There
And
were
she-
9 girls in our batch. 4 of them married batchmates, I think. Yeah.
And she had a house in Mumbai, as you.
Which I didn't know at the time. If I
Okay.
didn't know, I would have changed that even before.
I remember his first boss, Ashok Bijapurkar, always said that, this guy is very smart. He knew about it. And that's
I
how
didn't
he-
know. I didn't know.
Anyway, it worked out well.
Great. And an unbeaten partnership so far. With that, I think would like to move to what I've been getting pings on WhatsApp. When are you getting to the team? When are you getting to the team? So we will get to the team. And there are a couple of questions around that. So
I
Harsha,
put down the condition that it's got to be players that I've professionally seen and worked on. It was the easiest team in the world to pick after that. It took about 14 to 15 seconds to pick.
so could you please walk us through your team and a little bit of rationale, especially on the couple of what I felt as surprising picks
Surprising picks in the 11.
in the, especially the captain.
Yeah, that I realized there were 8 captains in my team. So whoever you picked, there were always going to be someone with another point of view. The only tricky one was the first one, because Gavaskar retired in 87. And I started doing international cricket, bits and bobs, in 83. So I'd done 3 or 4 internationals and 1 or 2 test matches. That is it. So, but it still fell in that category. But Gavaskar Sehwag was very easy to pick. So therefore, I'm looking post 83.
Yeah.
So Gavaskar Sehwag was very easy to pick. Dravid Tendulkar was very easy to pick. Dhoni Kapil Dev was very easy to pick. That left the 2. Kumble was very easy to pick. So that left another spinner. Srinath was also pretty easy to pick, actually. That left another spinner, another batsman, and another fast bowler. There were so many. There was Azharuddin, whose record is fantastic. There's VVS Lakshman. There's so many great batsmen around that time. I didn't see enough of GR Vishwanath, because by 83 he had finished playing his last test. But Virat Kohli's recent record is so good that it became quite easy to make that choice. Then it only really came, Zahir Khan was an easy choice to make, because the current lot of fast bowlers haven't yet finished playing. We don't know how far they'll go. Jasprit Bumrah might become who we think he is, but he's hitting his first plateau in international cricket already. You've got to see how he counters that his first plateau. Ishant Sharma versus Zahir Khan was an easy choice to do. So I went with Zahir Khan also as the left-hander. The only choice was Harbhajan Singh or Ravichandran Ashwin. Take your pick, really. Take your pick. Harbhajan Singh, probably the most skilled. Ashwin, probably the better innovator. But Ashwin has won you so many matches. So it's only in our country that, because of our extraordinary ability to look at what isn't there and to look at weaknesses and look at shortcomings, we're a country that's obsessed with our own shortcomings. And so we will not realize the greatness in our midst, but look for shortcomings in the greatness. And that is why we will ask questions about Ashwin. We never ask questions about Dennis Lilly's record in Asia. Lilly, great. But we'll always ask about Ashwin's record overseas. So anyway, I went Ashwin over Harbhajan. That was the only one to... so that was my 11. 12th was actually more difficult.
Yep.
And I think I might have made a mistake. I mean, I've never seen a faster person than Jadeja. When I saw Yuvraj in the outfield, I thought that's how quick it got. But Jadeja is at a completely different level in the outfield. Azharuddin was a fantastic outfielder. but among the outstanding close-in as well. So maybe I should have gone Azhar. I went Jadeja quicker in the outfield, more dramatic in the outfield. But India hasn't produced, till Jadeja came along, inclusive of Yuvraj Singh, India had not produced a fielder like Mohammad Azharuddin.
And your captain?
Yes, I went with someone that John Wright once said about India is the only country that would not think of making him a long-term captain. And Saurav Ganguly once told me that when Anil Kumble became captain of India, that was the best team meeting he had been to. But Ganguly is not in my side. Dhoni is an if you ask me white ball captain, I would have taken a quarter of a second to tell you who the captain would be. But I always thought Dhoni was a better white ball captain than red ball captain. Gavaskar, Dravid was captain for too little time, but he didn't enjoy leadership. He gave it up himself after a while. Gavaskar and Kapil Dev kept exchanging with each other. Tendulkar actually said no to the captaincy after a while. So I thought about all that, and I thought that someone to whom leadership came naturally, someone who was very, very tough, and that is how I went with Anil Kumble. Again, another person, we spent all our lives talking about his shortcomings rather than his greatness.
That's a very, very interesting and fantastic choice. I mean, the captain was the only one where I probably thought, if you look at records, Dhoni's record is better. Virat Kohli's record is excellent. He's now, I think, 61 tests as captain.
In this era of test match cricket, if you cannot beat everybody, what kind of team are you? Which are the great teams? Which are the great test match teams today? I mean, you just lost to New Zealand, I know, but that was the only set of conditions in which New Zealand can beat India. In no other condition could New Zealand have beaten India in a test match. So if you can't beat this South African team, if you can't beat this England team, then this is the best time in the world to be captain of a test side. So that's why I went. Also, I think Virat Kohli is a little emotional. Yeah, Kumble very solid. I thought the way Kumble handled a very, very difficult time in Australia and post the Sydney Test match of 2007-8 to come back and win the Perth Test of 2008 has to be one of the greatest stories in the history of Indian cricket.
Excellent. So just to recap, Gavaskar, Sehwag, Dravid, Tendulkar, Dhoni, Kapil Dev.
Kohli before.
Kohli, Dhoni, Kapil Dev, Ravi Ashwin, Srinath, Zahir.
Kumble, Srinath, Zahir.
Kumble, Srinath, Zahir.
Zahir and Srinath would be given boxing gloves, and whoever won the bout would go out to bat first.
Okay, great. Excellent. And we do have a winner. The winner is Mahesh Iyer, IIMA 89 batch. But very special mentions to Ankit Ankur from IIM Raipur, alumnus, and Mohan Raj Gupta, who came really close. But Mahesh was the only guy who...
Mahesh, why he picked Kumble as captain?
No, Mahesh didn't pick Kumble as captain, but he got everything else right. He got everything else right.
Okay.
Great. With that, I know we are a little bit over time. Thank you so much, Anita and Harsha, for joining. And I would just like to invite Suresh Shankar, who's the president of our Pan IIM Association, to just give a word of thanks. Thanks a lot. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Harsha and Anita. Harsha, you will not remember this, but for the audience, I played cricket against Harsha in 1985 for IMC against IIMA. And here's an incident you may not remember, Harsha. We saw the practice. You had two keepers, Mukul Deras and Sanjeev Das. And we said, we're going to bowl wides down the leg side and Sanjeev Das is going to stump batsmen. And we got two IIMA guys out doing exactly that because he was so quick with his...
Sanjeev Das kept wickets. That would have been 1984 when we hosted the Inter-IIM.
Yes, that is exactly the time when... That is the one. That is the one I'm talking about.
We went to Bangalore. So 84 we hosted, yeah. There was a guy called Gaurang Desai. I was in a double wicket with him.
Yeah, Gaurang and you were in one team. Shiv Kumar, Shiv of Pepsi, and I were in the other team. I remember that. But, more than that thing, I think, Harsha, you're one of the, I must say this, right? There are a lot of alumni who have done things, I think, from a business perspective, but I would be not exaggerating to say you're one of the most famous alumni in terms of being a voice and a face of this thing. I think more people have heard you more often and seen you more often than most alumni. And I think it's really fascinating that, as a person who's commentating on cricket, and we all talk in cricket about partnerships, and today, I think hearing about the partnership with you and Anita, which is probably the lesser known side of that. I don't know whether, she is Dravid to your Tendulkar or Pujara to your Kohli or whatever it is, but I think hearing that whole story was fascinating for us. Thank you very much for sharing those insights and being very transparent. And, we hope to see you in Singapore when travel and other things open up and do a more detailed session just to discuss the nuances of Kumble versus Dravid versus Dhoni, and that I think we would have loved to have had more time with you on that. Thank you once again, Harsha and Anita, for being with us.
It's been a while since I came to Singapore. I used to come to Singapore very often to Lorong Chuan when ESPN started its offices in Lorong Chuan. But it's been ages now. Yeah, I would love to come back one day. We'll do an event when we're in Singapore.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And meanwhile, keep rocking. And there were lots of questions about your things with Amitabh and other stuff like that we will probably reserve and for the next occasion we have you.
No problem talking about it. Yeah, anytime. Yeah.
Bye.
All right.
Thank
Yeah.
you all.
Thank you, Harsha. Goodbye.
Pleasure.
Thank you everyone for attending.
Bye.